Hey, everybody, it's Tommy Canale, and welcome back to Before the Lights podcast, the show that tells you how they made their mark. Today, I have not one, but two guests in the music industry. First, an award-winning composer, trumpeter, conductor, and leads the Pop Strings Orchestra that is a Las Vegas Raiders house band. We welcome back David Perrico. Next, a highly sought-after Emmy-nominated musician and musical director. He's also a conductor, trumpeter, 30-plus years headlining in Las Vegas, and leads a powerhouse 14-piece horn, funk, rock and roll soul band. He's an arranger, composer, and producer for national television. Drew Carey said, "This is a house band so good, you'll never want to leave the house." Please welcome to the show, David Perrico and Lon Bronson. David, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back, Tommy. Good to see you.
Lon, welcome to Before the Lights.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We are here at Lemon Tree Café and Market. That's probably why you hear the background. Here in Las Vegas, located at 6111 South Buffalo Drive. Go to lemontreecafelasvegas.com or go to click a link in the show notes. They got coffee, pastries, tea service, and a wood pizza oven. So we'll get to more on Lemon Tree in a minute, but we're going to get to these guys. David wants a menu all of a sudden. Go, wait a minute, I might be hungry here.
Are we talking food or music?
We're talking both here. I want to start with you, David.
Yeah.
We recently lost Tony Bennett,
Yes.
and you were able to play for his 90th birthday party. Talk about being around Tony and what that was for you.
Oh, it was actually because of Lon.
Okay.
Lon actually contracted that. It was the 50th anniversary, right? Caesars.
Yeah.
And Lon conducted the show, had the band there. We played a bunch of different acts. And actually, Tony Bennett was one of the acts, right?
We had to wait for J-Lo. Do you remember?
Oh, that's right.
J-Lo held the whole effing show up
Yeah, that's right.
for 40 minutes.
Well, I'm going to help you, Lon. You can cuss on my show.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So, true story, right? Yeah. She held us all up, and that included Tony. So Tony's like, nicest guy in the world, and no, not even a peep out of him. Not anything like, J-Lo, you better get your ass down here now, or Mr. Bennett's walking. I never heard a peep out of him.
No, Tony was always chill. I mean, that was the first time. Actually, that was the first time I was around, like, on stage with him. But, I was just playing in the back, just trumpet in the section. But, he just came out and did his thing, and it was his 90th birthday, I think.
Yeah, it was.
It was in that vicinity, but I mean, the overall event was Caesar's 50th.
Yeah.
So that's why they had all the big time Caesars acts all together. Your old pal Donnie Osmond,
Donnie
and
Osmond.
there was just a ton of acts that we were lucky enough to back up and play for.
Yeah, but what Lon said, Tony came out, he was totally chill, totally cool. I think he did 2 or 3 songs, just killed it. Couldn't believe it. When you're around somebody like that, you realize why they are that great.
It was mesmerizing too, because we were close enough to him to actually hear his voice acoustically without audio amplification. And man, it's like one of those times. Like with me, it was Natalie Cole.
I was just going to say Natalie Cole.
when you hear the actual instrument, of the human being, especially in those two cases, you'll be blown away.
Yeah, just to go off. Lon had contracted the big band, a full big band with Natalie Cole, and this was at, I think, the Cannery.
At the Cannery
Outside.
of all places,
and
yeah.
Natalie was in a wheelchair in the wings.
Yeah.
Because she was dealing with some health issues, liver transplants or something like that.
Hep C.
Everything.
Yeah.
But then she came out, and when she sang, her voice literally covered the entire band. It was incredible.
Acoustically.
And
Yeah.
Tony Bennett was the same.
Yeah, he was one of the last real Kroners around.
Yeah.
Well, it's a short list. It's getting shorter every year, but yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. If you want to get the background on David, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the first show we did, so we don't have to backtrack to what you and I did. But I'm going to catch people up on Lon, and I did some research. Were you a paid campaign flyer distributor in New Hampshire in '72 for Nixon, and were told to pull out and destroy any McGovern materials from people's mailboxes?
What do they call that where they do the surprise catch?
Blackmail?
Yeah. No, absolutely true. True. In the fall of '72, I was in junior high in New Hampshire, and my parents were radical. Well, almost everyone in New Hampshire is at that time. Radical right-wing Republicans, which today would be a complete moderate. In fact, they would probably be liberal Democrats compared to what we're seeing today. So they were just like, hey, this friend of ours down the street is the local neighborhood campaign organizer for re-elect the president, who was Richard Milhouse Nixon. And I think I got paid $5 to go out and distribute his literature in the mailboxes. Now, here's the cool thing about the story, absolutely true. Without anyone telling us, and it's funny because you see all the, I don't know if you saw The Plumbers, there's been a lot of like series and documentaries about Watergate as of late. And without anyone telling us, we became G. Gordon Liddy's, little miniature G. Gordon Liddy's. No one told me to take out all the McGovern literature and deposit it into the nearest wastebasket or behind a bush or wherever. No one told me to do that. It was just implied. Trash the McGovern stuff, put in the Nixon stuff into everybody's neighborhood mailbox. And that's exactly what I did in 1972.
You seem surprised by that.
Not at all.
I regretted it later, but it's one of those things. But true story.
I'm going to ask both of you guys this question. I've been asking it for people that I've been interviewing in the music industry. And because you have the word funk in some of the stuff you do, what is funk to you guys? How do you describe funk?
My definition would be classic funk. In other words, that would be 60s and early 70s. You'd have to go back to, I guess, early Earth, Wind, and Fire, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Commodores.
I would go Ohio Players.
Well, of course you would.
I would go Ohio Players, Parliament.
Oh, Parliament, good one.
Well, that's classically P-Funk, which is the next step.
Right.
But, yeah, I go along with P-Funk.
Okay.
It's basically all coming out of James Brown.
You're right.
I mean, and when the horn bands came in, like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago, Tower of Power, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Ohio Players, that was really all, they were taken from James Brown and just adding horns to it. That to me is where it, and then putting it into a pop, something that's relatable to pop,
right.
With lyrics.
You're absolutely right. Now that I think about it, James Brown was the godfather of soul and funk.
Yeah, that's all coming from JB.
Total. He was the first one.
Lon, before I get to you in the Riviera, I want to go to you, David, and talk about some of the times and memories you have at Cleopatra's Barge when you were at Caesars.
I do not remember those days.
Or nights. Or weekends.
That's even better.
If you remember the Barge, you weren't there.
Exactly.
It's like, what's
there is some haze of memories of that place.
No, I got to tell you, when we first started, we were, this is with Pop Strings. This is with the all-female, this is the 14-piece band.
Okay.
And we were at Red Rock Casino Hotel at Rock's Lounge before that, then Palms, then we went to Cleopatra's Barge. And that was really what really defined the band in a lot of senses, that I learned how to program a 2-hour high-energy dance show. And we were there. When we first started, it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We'd hit at 10 o'clock. We played 10 to 12. And in those 3.5 years there is really where we developed. Everyone, including me, just learning how to even do a club show. I always just thought I was too old to do that. But no, seriously. I mean, but those days, when it caught on, it was standing room only every time.
You couldn't get in the place.
You couldn't get in.
I'd come by to see him, There's a line down the hallway.
Yeah.
Like down 3 restaurants down, there's a line.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. And, built our roster up, of musicians coming in, because a lot of times people got to sub out and stuff. And, just learning, developing relationships. We developed a fan base where people would plan their vacations around Pop Strings weekend. So they'd stay at Caesars, hang out Friday, Saturday night. The gig was was great from 10 to 12. Then we had a DJ after us. We would hang till 2:30. Then we would go to the sports book to whatever 7 and then do it again.
Right.
But that's how lounges were supposed to work and did work.
And it was no cover.
Right. And that's how they worked for, there
was no cover
40
in those
years
days.
or whatever until the corporation screwed it up. But yeah, you're right. People would be like, hey, I'm going to stay at Caesars because I want to come see this band. Exactly. That's how it works.
And they still follow us. I mean, wherever we're at. And then obviously after COVID, Caesars has not opened up the Cleopatra's Barge, or all the other lounges are basically closed too. I think right now they might have a duo over at Paris with just piano and tracks.
Same with MGM.
Yeah.
So that's 95% of the city has no lounges, functioning lounges in the traditional sense.
The old days of the lounge are pretty much gone. And speaking of Cleopatra's and Riviera, were you also at Paddlewheel?
Paddle dump, yes.
Paddle dump.
That's what we used to call it, the paddle dump. How do you know about the paddle dump?
I've been around this town for a while.
Wow. Wait, which entity did you see over there? We had a showroom for a while over there, and we had a couple shows. And,
Well, I'd always been in there a couple times, but it was over on the convention center, correct? It
no.
was on the road that connected Paradise to Las Vegas
the
Boulevard.
property.
Yeah,
It
right.
became Debbie Reynolds for a minute.
Right.
Then for a minute, it was was it World Wrestling Federation?
It was something like that. I
Before
don't
my
remember.
time.
Yeah, it was they always fell on hard times over there for whatever reason, and then of course they imploded it and bulldozed it.
How did you get hooked up into the Riviera?
I came to Vegas for 2 weeks from New York City. I was living at the time, and I came out to help open up Lacage, an evening at Lacage, which was one of the I think only one new show that was opening at the La Bistro section, newly built section of the Riviera in 1985. And the producers of the show called me up and said, hey, we really need help opening up Lacage. You could help with the tracks. There was no music, no live music, unfortunately. But, you can help with the sound, the tracks, whatever we need. Just come out for a couple of weeks. We really want you to come out. So I came out for the 2 weeks, and I never left. Literally. So it's going on, 38 years later? Something like that. I'm not good with math. I could count to 4.
And was Steve Shripper there at the time, or he come in later?
No. He and I worked together for the first time at Lacage. He was the main maitre d' for all the La Bistro section shows, which, as I said, at the beginning, I think it was only Lacage. But then downstairs from that, we opened up the Improv Comedy Club. And then eventually above us in that upstairs room, it became Crazy Girls. So at the beginning, it was one show, but then it evolved into 3 or 4 shows running every night, 7 nights a week. Lacage was 3 shows a night, 7 nights a week for a long time. And Steve started out as the main maitre d'. And then, of course, he graduated to entertainment director a few years after that, and then possibly did something after that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he became Bobby Bacala in The Sopranos. So.
Oh, I heard something about that.
Whatever that was.
Yeah. But no, that's all true. I came out for 2 weeks and never left.
David, how's Raiders gig going for you?
Raiders is great. We're getting ready for our 3rd season. First preseason game is this Sunday against the 49ers.
Ooh.
Pretty Boy's not going to play, right?
He ain't pretty no more. No, man.
Is he going to play this time? Is this the second game or first?
I don't think he's going to play.
Because it's the first game, right?
This is our first preseason.
Yeah, he won't play.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play. But it's been great, Tommy. I mean, especially, 19-piece band at the games, full string section, a Tower Power style horn section.
Have you been over there to see it?
I haven't seen him at the Raiders. I've seen him at Santa Fe.
Yeah, you came to Santa Fe
Absolutely
Station.
loved his band.
But you got to see him, at Allegiant.
Yeah, I haven't been to
amazing.
Allegiant to see him yet.
It really elevates a sometimes poor game.
Yeah. The game experience, there's a lot going on. And my job is to, they're calling, it's live TV, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's very much like, say Johnny Carson and the Tonight Show kind of vibe. I mean, they're calling down cues. For every song that I arrange, I might have like 9 different versions, like a 20-second, 30-second, 40, 50, so on and so on. And then we collaborate with the Raiderettes during the game. Sometimes we do halftime shows. We've done, we've played with Sammy Hagar, Lone Star.
Oh, the guest stars are amazing.
Yeah, Rachel Platten, Judith Hill. This Sunday, John Kay from Steppenwolf is going to be there.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to do. I wrote an arrangement on Born to Be Wild, but that's the in-game experience is like none other. I mean, that's why the Raiders is the hottest ticket for NFL.
And he's doing the halftime show.
He's going to be. Yeah, we'll be doing a halftime show with John Kay.
Oh man,
Awesome. I got to get out and see you play.
I was going to say I'd love to see John Kay.
Okay.
Tell me about your new LP Sidewalk that has the tracks. Carmela is one of my favorite songs. I love that song. But
Carmela? Yeah.
Tell me about the.
So that was released. That's one of my newest projects out of the 10 different bands that I produce. That's my 68 piece, and that album is all original compositions and arrangements. We released it November 1st, and I think we sold a whopping 245 streams.
We're gonna up that.
Better than nothing.
We're gonna up that because I'm gonna put a link in the show notes.
All right. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, it's well received, and we just did. I took that concept at one step and basically did a version of Pop Strings with a symphony. So it's a true rock symphony, and we just did a sold out concert at Reynolds Hall on July 14th, and all 32 Raiderettes joined us on a few numbers as well. And that genre, the genres that we play is, 80s, 90s, a little bit of everything. So there's Bruno Mars, Earth, Wind & Fire, AC/DC, Bon Jovi, Journey, and then a couple spun up rock versions of Beethoven and Mozart.
It's great stuff. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll put a link in the show notes. Lon, you provided direction for a wide range of artists from Faith Hill to David Cassidy. Even the Rat Pack is back, which you and I were talking about before we got started today. And you've been around Natalie Cole, Don Henley, Roberta Flack. But tell me about recording with Tower of Power.
That was amazing because, they were the impetus for me putting my band together, which, you mentioned earlier. We started at the Riviera, but we've been knocking around town since 1990, a bunch of places, headlining down at the Golden Nugget for 2 years in the Frank Sinatra showroom, and currently in residence once a month at Smith Center at Myron's, which we love doing. Absolutely great. And, the product, hi. We're taking a selfie,
We're taking selfies.
Okay. What was the question? Now I'm lost.
Recording with Tower of Power.
Oh, yeah. So I had run into the original arranger early in our career, and he actually started us out, Greg Adams, the trumpet player, horn arranger for Tower of Power from all the early hits. And he ended up with Tower of Power at their very lowest point at Calamity Jane's on Boulder Highway. I don't know if you're familiar with Calamity's.
I've never been there, but I went by it.
It hasn't existed for about 30 years. But back in the early 90s, it was a hot place to go. But it was a little funky club, Western theme, Calamity Jane's, obviously. And they put Tower up at this Fleabag Motel on Boulder Highway. And I went out and I met Greg. I think they were there for a couple nights in a row. And he said, hey, man, I know about your band, blah, blah, blah. If you can possibly get me a room at the Riviera, I can't stand being in this Fleabag Motel. Please, I'll give you anything you want. I said, anything? And he goes, yeah, man, what do you want? Is it money? Is it, what do you want? I go, I want some charts, which I'm sure he doesn't get a lot, right? So at that point, I think he thought I was just a fan. And I said, yeah, I want like 5 or 6 of your original horn arrangements for Tower because I'm starting this band and I want to, I'd just love to have it because we just idolize you guys. And sure enough, I got him the room, which amazing concept. You could pick up a phone and get a comp room at a hotel instantly. That's long gone. That's another bitchin' complaint that we'll get to maybe. And anyway, 3-4 weeks later, this box appears on my front step, and it's 7 original scored in his hand pencil Tower Power horn arrangements. And that is how I started the band, with those arrangements. And then fast forward to, I think it was 2015, I had forged a great relationship with Doc Kupka, the Barry player and songwriter for most of their hits, co-songwriter, but Greg was the arranger for the horns. And he said, man, we should record your band, and I'll get a bunch of the Tower guys in, and we'll record it live. And that's exactly what we did at the long missed Ovation Room in Green Valley Ranch.
Green Valley Ranch.
So he got about half the Tower horn section, plus Rocco on bass.
Yes.
Plus Garibaldi on drums. So it was the core of Tower, plus my band, including this guy. And I think you got to record the So Very Hard to Go trumpet solo, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it was just an amazing experience, and we recorded the live CD, released it about a year later, and they've been selling it wherever they go ever since. If you go to see Tower or wherever they are on the planet, they actually sell these other Tower-related CDs and videos, as well as their own stuff, which I think is pretty cool.
Was there a recording on the Ovation, or was it the Santa Fe?
No, it was definitely an Ovation, and then the release party was at Santa Fe.
Ah, that was it. Okay.
Yeah, because thank God, the sound at Ovation was always amazing.
Yeah.
Santa Fe, not so much.
Yeah.
How did you two guys meet up?
At the bathhouse. Which bathhouse was I?
Well, the Coast Guard told me that. No, actually, it was. I had moved here 2004. I was going to be here for 2 years and moved back to New York. I was killing time because 9/11 happened. Blah blah blah. So Dave Loeb at UNLV offered me a graduate assistant. So I figured, okay, I'll do my master's degree and then kill some time and head back. Well, there was. I think you did Contractor, or was it Dave Loeb? Was Family Guy?
Well, Loeb handed off Family Guy to me,
Right.
with one stipulation. Guess what the stipulation was?
He hires me.
Yes,
David Perrico.
He goes, and at that time, I don't think I knew
He's
you.
never heard me.
Yeah.
Or,
And I'm like, but we trust Dave Loeb, So at that time, I said, hey man, whatever, that's great. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure he's a great player. So I put him in a section with Tom DeLibero,
Kevin Lawson, and Perello.
and Tom Perello, which
Yeah.
is a pretty heavy.
Yeah.
You couldn't get heavier.
Yeah.
At that time, even now.
Yeah. That was heavy.
Yeah.
But that's where I met Lon. But then the first gig I did with him,
Oh no.
this was a great story. I don't know. DeLibero couldn't be there.
Right.
Or something. So
Or he had some dignity.
this is my first gig. He says, "Hey, I got this gig. It's at Arizona Charlie's. Why don't you come slum with us?"
Oh yeah, that was at the Naughty Saloon.
Whatever.
The naughty ladies.
Yeah.
So I get there, and Lon's book, it looks like you're reading a lie detector test.
That you're gonna fail.
There's definitely the pages are ripped and torn, and some of those charts are really chicken scratch. So he says, "Hey man, welcome to the dark side," and he counted it off, and it was just like balls to the wall, and I knew I was like, man, this band is just killing in a full Tower Power thing, and the lead trumpet book is all heat. I mean, so that's basically it was his test.
There's no place to hide.
That was his test to see. All right, let's see.
And probably our low point for gigs was that Arizona Charlie's. I remember that night because literally a fist fight broke out at the bar. Which, that's not necessarily something that happened to us, at any of the places we ever played. And, it was a wild night. It's still Arizona Charlie's today.
But
It's
that was
funny.
the first gig, and then I basically been playing with him ever since. That's 2016. 2015? No, 2015.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So was that the low point, Lon, or was it when you read a...
What, me playing with him?
Where is this going?
Was it Arizona Charlie's, or when you read a top 10 list in full drag at the Strat for Frank Marino?
Well, I was the MD, to be fair, of that show. And Frank and I go back to Lacage, like I said, when I opened that show in '85. No, that was a high point, actually. And I don't think I did that list. I think that was Johnny Katz did the list. I think I stood by and looked pretty.
Yeah.
Very pretty, incidentally. But, that was, sometimes you got to put a dress on. What's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
I don't see it.
both of you guys have taught or have currently done teaching. What does you guys enjoy that giving back, or tell me more about teaching?
Hate it.
Hate it?
Yeah, I taught at the university level, so I was adjunct faculty at UNLV, and I was more in a specialized scenario. I do not like the bureaucracy of things.
Worst.
I'll just say that.
The worst.
And I'm no longer teaching there, for several reasons.
Same reason for me.
Yeah,
I was
so-
adjunct faculty at UNLV, and I had what they called the funk ensemble for years, and it was a student ensemble based on my band.
Yeah.
And I would bring those kids into the Riviera completely illegally because half the kids were under 21. I don't know how I got away with it, but got away with a lot of stuff at the Riv.
Yeah.
And I would make it a point to get those kids in at least twice a semester to see what it's like to play at 2 o'clock in the morning
Right.
to, a pretty rowdy crowd in a casino on the Strip. And that actually was frowned upon. The chairman of the department at that time, I guess, was a classical or legit vocalist, and they could care less. They're like, oh, you got the kids on the Strip working. I don't care. All they care about is the educational process and the bureaucracy, like you said.
Yeah.
So, I did it for a long time. I think they still have the ensemble, but now they call it the Modern Music Ensemble or some bullshit.
Yeah.
But I did it for most of the 90s, and it's funny because a lot of the kids that were in my ensemble are still in town as professional musicians today.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that was all me. That was a lot of Frank Gagliardi and actually Rocky Winslow after him. But that is kind of a testament to, going and being a part of the educational music process and actually doing something with it afterwards other than teaching.
Yeah. I mean, the teaching, I do like giving back in the sense that I do some master classes or clinics or I've been working with this organization, the Positively Arts. And it's a lot of younger kids that are mostly song and dance. But the girl that runs it, her name is Polita Simpson. And there's some really amazing, talented students there. And sometimes I'll do workshops or listen to them critique. They have like America's Got Talent kind of thing where they have maybe like 50 kids throughout, like what's I call it band camp. I mean, I was growing up, it was called band camp.
Right.
But it's kind of what it is. It's a band camp. So I'll just, I might adjudicate some things and then give like a little master class, of course, pro bono. I'm happy to give that way. And that's where I feel like my experience in the commercial arena can, whatever I can impart, what really goes on in music. Like the music is 2%. It's the 98% of everything that you've got to get together to make things happen. And actually, two of the what I call their star students will be guesting with Pop Strings Orchestra at Myron's October 6th. So they'll get a chance to sing. I mean, they're 13, 14 years old. They'll get a chance to sing with Pop Strings in Myron's.
Their dreams haven't been crushed yet.
Yeah, no.
That'll happen around 16, 17.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I do in teaching that way. I like,
I taught history of rock and roll for 2 or 3 years. And interesting factoid, history of rock and roll, at least at UNLV, and my understanding is at most colleges throughout the country, pays the bills for the rest of the music department.
Oh, it's the highest attendance.
I had
class.
like 60 kids in one class.
I can see that.
And that's why I only did it for 2 or 3 years, because it became work. I'm like, this is a job. It was fun at the beginning, but then you're up there lecturing for 90 minutes. I mean, there's no place to hide.
Yeah.
David, tell my listeners what it was like working with and being around Paul Schaefer.
Uh-oh.
Paul Schaefer. Yeah. Working with Paul was intense. I'll put it that way. It was intense. He's very demanding. He was cool. He asked me, he came into Cleopatra's Barge and saw Pop Strings play, and then he asked me to be his music director. So then that entailed writing all the charts and the arrangements, hiring the band for his Paul Schaefer and the Shifters show.
Say that 3 times.
At Cleopatra's Barge, which was a fun, great show.
It really was.
It was because Paul, over the last 35 years that he was with Letterman, obviously befriended a huge amount of like from James Brown on, like. So playing at Cleopatra's Barge with Paul Schaefer was really a highlight for me. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. But yeah, he was intense.
Those video clips you show were great.
Yeah, he was.
And
intense.
I had a couple interactions with him too. And a quick story. The second one, saw him back in the Riv in the day and asked him about the Blues Brothers. That's not even the story. Years later, I think around 2005-06, I'm on a David Cassidy road show in Connecticut, and he ends up coming to it because he lived. It's like the richest city on the planet, someplace in Connecticut, per capita. And he comes to the show, and his manager or handler or whatever goes, "Hey, Paul would really like to sit in with the band." I go, "Yeah, well, I got a great idea. Have him come up to my keyboard."
I don't want an idea.
I want an intelligent
input.
Something input. And so the handler goes, "Yeah, he, come and talk to us." Says, "Hey, Paul, how you doing? Couldn't be nicer.
Yeah.
I met you at the Riv years ago, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Why don't you come up play the harpsichord solo on I Think I Love You," which is that little harpsichord solo near the end, and it's very iconic, and anybody into pop music knows it. So he goes, "Yes, that's great." I said, "But let's do it as a surprise. I'm not going to tell David, and we'll bring you up from the wings. It'll be a total surprise. He knows you're in the audience, but he doesn't know you're going to sit in with the band." So comes time, like the song before, for him to come out and do it. He's in the wing next to me. So I just walk off into the wing. I go, "Okay, Paul, it's the next song. Everything cool?" He's shaking.
Yeah,
He was nervous. I'm like, He goes, "He doesn't want me to come out. He doesn't want me to come out." Now, think about all the big stars he's worked with.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just put it this way. David Cassidy was not amongst them, So I'm like, what's the problem? Is it the solo, right? He goes, "I got the chart right there. It's fine." He goes, No, he doesn't want me to come out. I can't do it. I mean, shaking like a leaf. And I go, "You'll be fine. Don't worry." So it comes time for that. I actually interrupt Cassidy in his rap, which never goes well. And I go, "Hey, we got a special guest star, David. Guess who wants to come out and play I Think I Love You?" And he's like, "What? What's going on?" "Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Schaefer." And he comes out from the wing, cool as a cucumber, plays the song down, kills the harpsichord solo. What's the problem?
Yeah, with Paul,
what the hell's wrong with him?
he would be uptight, like, especially the cool thing, like we never knew, or maybe he planned. Either way, it doesn't matter. David Letterman was there one night. Dennis Miller, Eugene Levy. I mean, the list goes on of all these celebs that would come up and hang, and then like they would come into the Barge. Like one night, Martin Short came in, and he's digging on the, obviously the string section, the girl string section.
You think?
Yeah. So he comes up, he goes, "Let's do Fly Me to the Moon." So we did Fly Me to the Moon. Paul comes up, he's playing. Then we go into Soul Man. And it was, your chart has an 8-bar interlude, which was not what the album was.
For Soul Man?
For Soul Man. Which is the right way to do it. And
right.
And actually, when I did that on the Barge, Paul wanted to just do 4, and he went in back to the verse or chord, whatever it was, and we kept playing. He's like, "Yeah, that's right. I wrote that. Wow. That's right." And he's like, but like, he sometimes he'd be a little nervous, doing a show, because maybe all those years being a sideman or the punch guy, whatever you want to call it. But then when he was out front and you have to do a show and talk and do all these things, but then when he would start playing, man, he would just fucking kill it.
Yeah,
it's just unbelievable.
His bag was being the sidekick. Think
the
about
sidekick.
All those
Yeah.
years
Man.
with Letterman, he's the sidekick. Go to him for like 30 seconds, he's gold.
He's fine, but then like it's like you said, like once his fingers are on the keyboard, like he had a B3 there for the show, and we were doing stuff like he would modulate and take us up keys. I mean, they would do this stuff all the time. Like for live TV, he would just turn around and just say, "Call a song," and play it, and the band would be like right on it. It was that intense. That's when I say intense.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, there's no net.
Lon, give me a good story from the Riv.
Oh God, I mean, there's a billion.
I know. Pick one.
Jeez. I don't know. You want a Sharippa story? Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
So who I just spoke to, we're still great pals. I spoke to him a week ago. He's currently in New York right now filming the new season, or I get maybe you know what? They might be off now for Blue Bloods. I got a feeling he's
on the strike,
not filming. Yeah,
he's probably on strike.
You know, I haven't checked on him since the strike, but one day he became entertainment director, like I said, and he calls me into his office. He goes, "Hey, I got to tell you something. It's top secret." I'm like, "Okay, sure, man." You know, we were really close because we basically ran all the entertainment at the Riviera for years and years. So this is like 1999, I think. And he goes, "Hey, I heard from this guy. He does this, you know, he created this show called The Sopranos. Have you ever heard of it?" I'm like, "Of course I've heard of it." Because they were into their first season, premiere season then. And he goes, he saw like a reel on me, and he wants me to come out, and he wants me to, you know, do a film test. And I might get the show. What do you think? I go, "What do you mean, what do I think?" He goes, "Well, I don't know if I want to leave this gig or not at the Riviera." Are you out of your fucking mind? Are you insane? I go do the screen test, but if he wants you, you got to take that.
Right.
This show is going to be huge. Because I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of the first season, it wasn't an immediate hit. It didn't take off until like the second season, I think. And, of course, third, fourth season before it became the massive, iconic show of all time that it still is. So, long story short, as he came back, goes, "I don't know, what do you think?" I go, "You got to take it." They offered him the show. He took it. The rest is history. So I take full credit for that.
Underneath all his accolades and fine print says founded by Lon Bronson.
Yeah, but you know, like Lon and I talk a lot. Lon's like consigliere to me for a lot of things. He's helped me out with a lot
I'm
of
not
stuff.
wartime, but I try my best.
You know, he's not a wartime consigliere. he's not 100% Sicilian.
I'm a kraut Mick.
But yeah, but he talks to Sharippa a lot, and like he'll say, you know, secondhand, "Yeah, I just talked to Sharippa today," and you know, Steve keeps he's got his hand on the pulse of what's happening here, you know, or what's trying to happen or not happening in Vegas.
Not a fan of Vegas anymore, by the way.
Yeah, most people that were here in the day have left to come back are not.
But he speaking of podcast, his podcast with Michael and Imperioli was huge.
Yeah, it was
massive, and I don't know if he's going to do another one, but
so Steve Sharippa's story at the Barge. That's the other thing. You know, talk about celebrities that would come in. I mean, the bass player from Bon Jovi, Martin Short, Paul Schaefer, Steve Sharippa, Mike Imperioli come out. They're hanging. You know, I mean, Jim Gaffigan, Rod Stewart Band, the Van Morrison Band,
which begs the question: why wouldn't a corporation want that to happen at their property and be proud of it and advertise it?
They just don't. It's
just so dumb. It's just dumb.
Yeah, it's.
You guys got to start your own lounge.
No. No. Too smart for that.
Yeah.
Now, like getting into the restaurant business. What do I know about the restaurant business?
I know how to sit down and order a meal. That's it.
We can't even find good Italian food here.
You can't. It's criminal.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. You know, Steve would come by. You know, that's how Steve is down to earth. You know, he's really obviously he's a big star right now.
Really is. I mean, especially if you go back 10 years. I mean, that show. We toured with a show called Comedy You Can't Refuse, and we had a lot of the stars from the cast.
Yeah, then you have Lorraine Bracco.
Yeah, at one point we had almost everyone you could imagine, and then we did the final episode party at the Hard Rock Seminole in Florida, and the cast didn't know the ending. So we were all watching it. They had it piped into this big event we did, and we were all watching it at the same time, and when the screen went black at the end, everyone went, "What the fuck happened?"
Yeah.
What, we lose power? The video feed went down?
Yeah, I had Arthur Nascarella on the show recently, and he was telling me about that at the premiere down there. That
I was there with him.
He's like, they had no idea. He's like, everybody's screaming around going, "Who pulled the plug? Like, what the hell's going on?"
Yeah, I mean, it was really wild. And then they immediately went off because they were on a dais facing me and the band. It was kind of a similar thing that the Days were talking about. You know, we're providing the music, and then they would answer questions, blah, blah, blah. So they immediately left the dais en masse and went backstage and had a little meeting because they wanted to have a unified front with the explanation as to what the fuck just happened. So yeah, I was lucky enough to be like the tag along fifth Beatle, so to speak, with Sopranos for many shows we did in that time frame.
Listeners, if you want to find out where these two are playing, go to lonbronson.com or davidperricomusic.com. I'll put links in the show notes where you can click on them and pay attention when you come to Vegas if you want to come see them. Before we go, guys, a couple more things. Tell me about playing at Myron's at the Smith Center and what that's like.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, we were amongst the first local acts to be booked at Myron's because when they opened, they called it the Jazz Cabaret, and they wanted to really initially just do kind of a piano cabaret New York City, Manhattan thing, which probably didn't really work so much. And in the second year, I got the call from Myron. He goes, "What do you think? Would you like to try a date here?" I said, "Are you kidding? That'd be amazing. I would love to." So I did the initial, glass ceiling breaking and got in there. And then soon after that, he reached out to you, I believe, to have your band. And our two bands were like the first local acts to play there.
Yeah, we've been there 10 years now, both of us.
2013.
Yeah, Lon broke the seal, and then that kind of paved the way for at that time it was my Pop Evolution big band.
Okay.
I didn't even have pop strings yet.
Yeah, I think that, initially they may have been a little hesitant to quote unquote hire a local band because they wanted everything to be national.
Yeah.
But they saw that this was a good mixture actually for their playlist, and they could get a lot of locals, and then also we would get some, the people that you mentioned to me would like base their weekend on going to Caesars.
Yeah.
Well, they ain't doing that no more. Now they're basing their weekend on coming to Myron's at the Smith Center.
Yeah.
So who's the smart guy there?
Oh.
Hello, Caesars. Are you listening? Are you listening, Caesars?
Yeah. The thing is, in that, Lon plays more shows there than I do. He paved the way there with the local bands. Let's just say it's not easy to get to have. You can do a one-off, but to be sustainable, you really have to have some depth, and that's what Lon's band has. I mean, I've been there 10 years. You've been there 10 plus. He's done more shows, but every one of his shows has been sold out. All of our shows, I think we've done like 58 shows, all sold out. He's well over 60, way over that.
Yeah, it's not automatic. As some people think, oh, well, I'll just go down to Myron's and automatically I'll sell out because it's at the Smith Center.
It doesn't.
Maybe the first time.
You got to
not the second time going on.
You've got to have some depth. You've got to have. Obviously, you have to have a following. I mean, Lon's been in town, since Abraham Lincoln was.
every single Myron show. And, at some point in the show, I go, raise your hand or make some noise if you saw us back in the day, 1990 at the Riviera, and literally a third of the audience usually.
Oh yeah, easily. Still devoted fans, and they still, they go back to the Riviera days.
And then I ask them,
Are they still chewing solid food?
Are you still eating solid food? A, and B, did you bring your own oxygen tank with you tonight? But it's great to have a loyal following, which you absolutely have as well. And that's how you work Myron's. You got to have a following plus the national interest.
And then just the side note about the Myron's and the Smith Center Reynolds Hall. The whole facility is run fantastically because it comes from the top. It comes from Myron and Glenn Meadis, and they really, really know. They know what's going on, and they know how to handle people. It's probably, without a doubt, the best gig, best venue in town, without a doubt.
And you know why? Because there's no child in a suit in the hierarchy there. There is literally no child in a suit, because now if you go to MGM, stations too, it doesn't matter where you go in town except for Smith Center, there is inevitably a child in a suit telling you something really, really dumb that is not going to work. And that happened to him many times. How about the glass wall or the...
Oh, yeah, there's just...
Idiots.
Yeah, there's all kind of things that
happen. The glass wall at Red Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just leave that one right there.
Yeah, we're going to leave that there.
David, before we go, the first time you and I did a show, we got a lot of feedback on tomato plants because we were joking about tomato plants. So I got a feeling I'm going to have to ask for my listeners, what's the status of our tomato plants?
Well, the tomato plants, they're very hard to keep going in Vegas. I had San Marzano seeds, I had cherry tomatoes and stuff. And I think because I grew up obviously in Youngstown, Ohio. I mean, on the East Coast, and I was just talking about this. Every September, we would go out and pick like 15 bushels of tomatoes, which would can, and then we would can. We would run through a machine and can, boil the sauce down and can it, basil. It was a whole family thing, and I really miss doing that. So I think that's the next step. That's where we're going. We're going to go back to that. My dad's going to come out. My godmother, my brother, who's
he's right. You can't get a decent tomato in this town, even if you go to Hog Foods or Sprouts. If you get like their greenhouse, whatever organic tomato, it tastes like paper. Your only hope is to get the organic heirloom, funny-looking tomato, and even that's not close to what you're talking about.
No. So I think there's a Gilchrist. The farm is called Gilchrist, and I've got to go check their tomatoes out.
Yeah,
but I think because now, just making sauce. Like if you really want to buy a decent can, it's in a can. There's a company. It's called Bianco, and they planted their own Roma tomato seeds in California. They're 100% organic, no GMO, blah blah blah. But it's $7.25 a can.
Right.
What we tell you, want to make a pot of sauce? It cost me $300. No, seriously.
Lon and I will be over for that sauce.
Definitely.
But
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have very good luck with tomatoes either.
Neither do I.
You really don't.
No.
Well, I want to thank the Lemon Tree Café and Market here on 6111 South Buffalo Drive. Go to lemontreecafelasvegas.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. You can also follow them on Instagram at Lemon Tree Café and Market. Lon, thanks so much for coming out this morning and being on the show.
Thank you, Tommy. That was a blast.
David, thanks for coming back on.
It's my pleasure, man. Let's do it again.
Yeah,
thanks, Tommy.
We'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
Listeners, before we go, make sure you join the exclusive Before the Lights members group. Click the link in the show notes that includes a private Zoom calls with former guests, a one-of-a-kind poker chip, extra content, and more. It's only $7.99 a month. It's your way to support the show. That's going to do it for this episode of Before the Lights. And until next time, everybody, a salute, a chin chin.